I've always been fascinated by mirror mazes. There's something about the illusion, the mystery, and the challenge that draws me in every time. The way reflections twist and turn, creating a labyrinth of endless possibilities, has always captivated me. The thrill of finding my way through the shimmering corridors, seeing multiple versions of myself, and the momentary confusion before triumphantly exiting. It all felt like a magical adventure. That year, the carnival that came to town promised the largest mirror maze I had ever seen. As soon as I heard about it, I knew I had to experience it for myself. The excitement bubbled up inside me as my friends and I made our way to the carnival grounds. The air was filled with the sounds of laughter, cheerful music, and the enticing aromas of cotton candy and popcorn. As we walked through the bustling carnival, with its bright lights and colorful tints, my eyes were drawn to the entrance of the mirror maze. It stood grandly at the edge of the fairgrounds, an imposing structure adorned with flashing lights and glittering mirrors. The entrance was flanked by two enormous, ornate mirrors that seemed to promise endless wonder and excitement within. My friends decided to try their luck at the nearby game stalls, but I couldn't resist the lure of the maze. With a mixture of anticipation and determination, I approached the entrance. The ticket taker gave me a knowing smile as I handed over my ticket, and I felt a rush of excitement as I stepped inside. The moment I entered, I was surrounded by reflections. The interior of the maze was a dazzling spectacle of mirrors, each one meticulously placed to create an intricate labyrinth. The lights from the carnival outside bounced off the mirrored walls, creating a kaleidoscope of colors and shapes that danced around me. I could see multiple versions of myself from every angle, each one reflecting a different facet of my being. I started moving through the maze with enthusiasm, my heart pounding with excitement. Each turn presented a new challenge as I navigated the twisting passages and deceptive reflections. The thrill of the chase, the sense of adventure, and the allure of the unknown filled me with a sense of childlike wonder. Little did I know, the adventure that awaited me inside the mirror maze was not one of joy and triumph, but of fear and terror. The enchanting allure of the reflections would soon give way to a nightmare that would haunt me for the rest of my life. At first, it was exhilarating. The mirrors created a mesmerizing spectacle, each turn revealing a new, glittering path. I could see countless versions of myself, all moving in sync, creating an almost hypnotic effect. The thrill of the maze filled me with a sense of adventure, and I confidently forged ahead, laughing at the occasional misstep as I bumped into a mirror. But as I delved deeper into the maze, the initial excitement began to wane. The reflections that had once seemed enchanting now started to feel disorienting. Every direction looked the same, an endless array of my own image stretching out into infinity. I turned a corner, only to find myself face to face with another version of me, blocking my way. I tried another path, but it too led to a dead end of mirrors, each one reflecting my growing confusion. The maze seemed to close in around me. The passages, which had seemed wide and inviting, now felt narrow and claustrophobic. Each step I took echoed in the confined space, the sound bouncing off the mirrors and creating an eerie, dissonant chorus. The reflections became more distorted, my image stretching and warping in unsettling ways. My heartbeat quickened, the sound loud in my ears as the sense of entrapment grew. I started to feel a creeping unease. The mirrors no longer felt like playful obstacles, but rather like walls closing in on me. Each turn became more desperate as I tried to find a way out, but the maze seemed to shift and change, the exits I thought I saw vanishing as quickly as they appeared. My own reflection seemed to mock me, my eyes wide with fear mirrored back at me from every direction. The carnival sounds outside faded away, replaced by the oppressive silence of the maze. The air felt thick, heavy with the weight of countless eyes watching me from every reflective surface. I could almost hear whispers, the faint sound of voices just out of reach, adding to the tension that coiled in my chest. The longer I stayed in the maze, the more my sense of direction failed me. I couldn't tell if I was making progress or simply going in circles. Each turn felt like a step deeper into an endless labyrinth, the walls of mirrors stretching on forever. The excitement I had felt at the beginning was now a distant memory, replaced by a gnawing fear that I might never find my way out. As I continued to navigate the twisting passages, my growing unease turned into outright dread. I could feel the maze playing tricks on my mind, the distorted reflections blurring the line between reality and illusion. The tension in the air was palpable, a silent, oppressive force that pressed down on me, making it hard to breathe. I was no longer sure if I was alone. Shadows flickered at the edges of my vision, and I felt a cold, creeping sensation that someone, or something, was watching me. My own reflection was no longer the only one I saw in the mirrors. The sense of being followed grew stronger with each passing moment, and I knew that whatever was lurking in the maze with me was not just a trick of the light. As I continued to navigate the bewildering corridors of the mirror maze, a chilling realization began to settle over me. I was not alone. At first, it was just a flicker of movement in the corner of my eye, a shadow that seemed out of place amidst the endless reflections of myself. I turned quickly, hoping to catch a glimpse of whatever it was, but saw nothing but my own distorted image staring back at me. Trying to shake off the growing sense of dread, I pressed on, each step more hesitant than the last. The mirrors seemed to close in around me, the passages growing narrower and more confining. The air was thick with tension, and every slight movement I made felt amplified in the oppressive silence. Then I saw it again, a shadowy figure moving swiftly through the mirrors. This time, it was unmistakable. It was a dark, indistinct shape that flitted across the glass, always just out of reach, just beyond my line of sight. My heart pounded in my chest, and a cold sweat broke out on my forehead. I wasn't alone in the maze. The figure moved with an unnatural speed and fluidity, its silhouette darting between the mirrors as if it were part of the reflections themselves. I tried to follow its movements, but every step I took seemed to bring me no closer to understanding what I was seeing. The reflections distorted the figure's shape, making it difficult to discern any details. All I knew was that it was there, and it was watching me. Fear gripped me, tightening like a vice around my chest. My breaths came in shallow, rapid gasps as I realized that the figure was not just a passive observer. It was moving with intent, always one step ahead, leading me deeper into the labyrinthine maze. The feeling of being hunted was unmistakable, and my instinct to flee overrode any sense of reason. I began to run, my footsteps echoing loudly in the confined space. The mirrors flashed by in a disorienting blur, each reflection of my terrified face merging with the shadowy figure's elusive form. No matter how fast I moved, the figure stayed ahead, a dark specter that seemed to anticipate my every move. The maze twisted and turned, each passage more confusing than the last, and my frantic pace only served to heighten my sense of disorientation. The more I ran, the deeper I seemed to be pulled into the maze's sinister grip. The shadowy figure was always there, a constant presence in the mirrors, its movements a dark dance that filled me with a growing sense of dread. My mind raced with fear and confusion, each turn feeling like a step further into an endless nightmare. I could feel my energy waning, my legs growing heavy with exhaustion. Panic set in as I realized that my attempts to escape were only leading me further into the maze's clutches. The reflections around me seemed to warp and twist, the walls of the maze closing in, creating a claustrophobic trap from which there was no escape. Desperation clawed at me as I stumbled through the maze, my eyes darting wildly in search of an exit. The shadowy figure was everywhere and nowhere, a phantom that haunted my every step. The eerie silence was broken only by the sound of my ragged breathing and the relentless pounding of my heart, each beat a reminder of the terror that pursued me. In that moment of sheer panic, I realized the horrifying truth. The maze was not just a physical challenge, but a psychological one. The shadowy figure was not merely a figment of my imagination, but a manifestation of the maze's dark power, a malevolent force that sought to ensnare and torment me. The sense of being chased was not an illusion. It was a grim reality that I could not escape. My frantic pace eventually led me to a narrow corridor that seemed different from the others. The mirrors here were slightly angled, creating a distorted funhouse effect that made my head spin even more. I could see multiple versions of myself, each one reflecting my panic and exhaustion. But there, at the end of the corridor, was something new, a door. It looked like an exit. A surge of relief mixed with terror washed over me. I stumbled toward the door, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The closer I got, the more I could feel the tension in my body beginning to ease. This nightmare was finally coming to an end. I could escape. As I reached the door, my hand trembling, I paused for a moment. Something compelled me to look back. Maybe it was a need to confirm that the nightmare was truly over, or maybe it was some darker instinct. I turned my head slowly, my heart pounding in my ears. There, in the reflection of one of the angled mirrors, I saw it. The shadowy figure stood a few paces behind me, its dark form now fully visible in the glass. It was tall and gaunt, with limbs that seemed unnaturally long and a face obscured by shadows. Despite the lack of detail, I could feel its eyes on me, cold and malevolent. My blood ran cold as the figure raised a hand. It was a slow, deliberate motion, and I watched in horror as it waved at me. The gesture was eerily human, almost mocking, and it sent a shiver down my spine. It wasn't just an illusion. It was real, something more sinister than I could have imagined. The wave was not a farewell. It was a promise that this encounter was not over, that the shadowy figure was not done with me. The realization struck me with a force that left me breathless. Whatever this thing was, it had followed me through the maze, playing a game of cat and mouse, and it was now letting me go with the knowledge that I could never truly escape it. Terrified, I pushed the door open and stumbled out into the fresh air. The sounds of the carnival rushed back to me, the laughter, the music, the distant chatter of people enjoying themselves. But I felt disconnected from it all, as if I had crossed a threshold into a world where those things no longer mattered. I didn't stop running until I found my friends, their worried faces a stark contrast to the nightmare I had just endured. I tried to explain what had happened, but my words felt inadequate, unable to convey the true horror of the experience. The shadowy figure's wave haunted my thoughts, a chilling reminder that the maze was not just a collection of mirrors, but a trap designed to ensnare and terrorize. The sense of relief I had felt upon finding the exit was tainted by the knowledge that the figure was still out there, waiting, watching. That night, as I lay in bed, the image of the figure waving at me replayed in my mind, over and over. It was a nightmare I couldn't shake, a dark presence that had left its mark on my soul. The maze might have let me go, but the figure's silent promise echoed in my thoughts, a haunting reminder that some nightmares never truly end. The experience in the mirror maze left an indelible mark on me, a dark stain on my psyche that I couldn't wash away. The fear of being chased, of knowing that something sinister had been pursuing me, became a constant companion in the back of my mind. It haunted me during quiet moments and invaded my dreams, where the shadowy figure would reappear, always just a step behind, always watching. Every time I closed my eyes, I could see the figure's hand raised in that mocking wave, a gesture that spoke of malice and a promise unfulfilled. The memory of its long, gaunt limbs and the oppressive darkness that seemed to emanate from it lingered, a nightmare that refused to fade. I couldn't shake the feeling that the figure was still out there, waiting for the right moment to return. Even everyday reflections became a source of anxiety. The simple act of looking in a mirror now filled me with unease, the fear that I might catch a glimpse of that dark form lurking just behind me. I avoided mirrors as much as possible, and I couldn't bring myself to go near any mirror maze ever again. The thought of stepping into another labyrinth of reflections, where reality and illusion blurred together, was unthinkable. Friends and family noticed the change in me. They saw how I flinched at sudden movements in my peripheral vision and how I grew anxious in places with too many reflective surfaces. I tried to explain what had happened, but the words felt hollow, unable to convey the true terror of that encounter. Most chalked it up to a vivid imagination or a moment of panic in the maze, but I knew it was something more. The unanswered questions gnawed at me. Who, or what, was the shadowy figure? Why had it chosen to appear to me, and what did it want? These thoughts consumed me, a puzzle with pieces that refused to fit together. The figure's presence in the maze was not just a trick of the light or a figment of my imagination. It was real, and it had left a scar that would never heal. Time passed, but the fear remained. It was a constant undercurrent in my life, shaping my actions and thoughts. I found solace in avoiding anything that reminded me of the maze, but the shadow's memory was always there, lurking in the recesses of my mind. In the end, the encounter left me with a profound sense of unease and a lingering fear that some mysteries are best left unsolved. The shadowy figure, with its silent wave and ominous presence, was a reminder that the world is full of dark corners and hidden threats. I had escaped the maze, but I would never truly be free from the shadow that followed me, a sinister specter haunting the edges of my reality.